This is the MMA Brief Podcast, recapping the world of mixed martial arts every single week, with your host, Brandon Johansson.
Welcome back to the MMA Brief. Previewing UFC on Fox 24, the title fight between Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, arguably the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world, against number 3 ranked flyweight Wilson Reis, and recapping UFC 210 from Buffalo. We're going to start at the bottom of the main card, where Charles Oliveira was able to defeat Ill Will Brooks by submission early on in the first round. Surprised the former Bellator lightweight champion Ill Will Brooks with a takedown or two in that first round early, and then took his back, standing rear naked choke. Very impressive finish for Charles Oliveira, who's fighting at 155 pounds, had been fighting at 145 pounds. He had been losing fights he shouldn't have lost. He comes up, beats the former Bellator lightweight champion. Thiago Alves made his return to the 170-pound weight class against the veteran Canadian Patrick Cote. Very impressive performance from Thiago Alves. And after the fight, Patrick Cote announced he was going to be retiring. Cynthia Calvillo defeated Pearl Gonzalez in the third round by rear naked choke. There was some drama leading into this fight. The commission found out Pearl Gonzalez had breast implants and deemed her ineligible to fight momentarily. And then, upon careful consideration, the New York State Athletic Commission said she could fight. So there's all this drama leading up to it. Cynthia Calvillo was able to defeat Pearl Gonzalez regardless of her breast size. Calvillo has fought on the past 2 UFC pay-per-view cards, UFC 209 and UFC 210, had a short turnaround, and got the win against Pearl Gonzalez. In the co-main event, Gegard Mousasi defeated Chris Weidman. Really good fight. Ended abruptly with controversy. New rule set in a place. Before, if you had 2 hands down, or even 1 hand down and 2 feet on the ground, you're a downed opponent. So you cannot be kicked in the face or kneed in the face. But with the new rules, you can get kneed in the face. So the referee stopped the fight. He's like, that was an illegal knee. He's got 5 minutes to recover. Chris Weidman was pretty hurt. Controversial knee that ended the fight after Dan Murgulata realized he shouldn't have stopped the fight in the first place because it was a legal knee. Oftentimes you'll see fighters milk the clock. They have time to recover. Oh yeah, I'm hurt and stuff. The doctor came in. Didn't sound like Chris was faking it, and afterwards his pupils were very dilated. So it seemed like he took a very devastating shot. If you can't continue, the fight's over. Very anticlimactic ending. Devastating for Chris Weidman in his corner. Gegard Mousasi is now a free agent. The former Scott Coker guy might sign with Bellator. Who knows? Very disappointing of Chris Weidman after defeating Anderson Silva twice, and the Vitor Belfort, the Lyoto Machida. This is his 3rd consecutive loss. It's got to sting a lot. And he was a huge proponent for getting MMA legal in New York. Now he has said he will never fight in New York again. The commission is so young, they don't know how to handle things. This is the first year that they handle MMA, and they fuck it up all the time. He wanted it. Now he's like, I'm never fighting there again. Gegard Mousasi, I don't know if he wants to get a win like that, but he'll take a win, I'm sure. Especially if this win over a former champion can get him a huge contract over there at Bellator. In the main event, Daniel Cormier defeated Anthony Rumble Johnson by 2nd round rear naked choke. Was able to impose his will, weathered the storm, took a head kick that broke his nose, and at one point, Rumble was able to take down Daniel Cormier briefly. After the fight, Anthony Rumble Johnson pulled out a bombshell and he retired. In his prime, the number 1 contender in the UFC's 205 weight class, which I have criticized many times as being thin, just lost their number 1 contender. They just lost their number 3 contender, Ryan Bader, to Bellator. 205 is so thin. The former champion would still be champion, John Jones, got suspended for taking dick pills. If they had everybody intact, it still wouldn't matter. it's a weak weight division right now, and it's getting weaker when the number one contender just retired out of nowhere. It's devastating to their weight class, man. They need some 205 fighters. Someone needs to lose some weight, or someone needs to gain some weight. People need to start, what happened was, they're like, I don't want to be 205 pounds. I got to fight John Jones or Daniel Cormier, Rumble Johnson, Gustafsson, Glover Teixeira. They're like, I think everybody just either gained weight or lost weight because 205 is very thin. Now we're going to switch over to UFC on Fox. Demetrius Johnson versus Wilson Hayes for the flyweight title. Kansas City debut for the UFC. And in the co-main event, Rose Namajunas versus Michelle Waterson. Should be a very entertaining fight and could potentially have title implications. The winner could definitely see themselves fighting Joanna Jędrzejczyk very shortly. Also, Jacare Souza versus Robert Whittaker. Interesting matchup. Jacare's in limbo right now. You got Yoel Romero, who's a clear number one contender in my mind. You also have Luke Rockhold, who I've forgotten to mention. But it's a clogged up division now with the GSP fight. Michael Bisping, champion. GSP, not ranked. He's fighting for the title. Where you also have Rockhold, Yoel Romero, Souza, number 3. Souza doesn't have much to gain here at all. But it'll be an interesting fight. Robert Whittaker's a very dangerous power puncher. Number 5 ranked, featherweight, Jeremy Lil Heathen Stevens is fighting the undefeated Renato Marciano. The prelims feature Big Country Roy Nelson, a very interesting flyweight bout between Louis Smolka and Tim Elliott. And if you want to tune into the UFC Fight Pass prelims, you got fighters like Ashley Evans-Smith, Zach Cummins, Aljamain Sterling, Andrew Sanchez. Uriah Faber will be inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. He's been hailed as the first superstar of lightweight classes. Uriah Faber's former and current proteges, Cody Garbrandt and TJ Dillashaw, will square off at UFC 213 for the bantamweight title. Their season of The Ultimate Fighter begins April 19th. It's a Wednesday. It should be very interesting. I want to see these guys fight very badly. I love TJ Dillashaw. He left Team Alpha Male, which would be Uriah Faber's camp. A lot of people felt disrespected by that. Now Cody's the champ. It's going to be very heated. I saw a preview of The Ultimate Fighter. They're the coaches, so they pick teams. At one point, Cody grabs TJ right by the neck. Like he chokes him. Like, what the fuck? That's assault, brother. I know you guys are going to fight in a cage. That's all signed and agreed upon. You can just grab people by the neck. I hope not. What kind of world are we living in? Point is, it made probably for good television, but I was like, that's fucked up. Very excited for the premiere of this season's Ultimate Fighter, and now UFC 213 is the date. TJ Dillashaw versus Cody Garbrandt for the bantamweight title. Alright, before we go, I'll briefly mention there was some towel gate issues. Daniel Cormier seemingly using a towel to make weight. He originally weighed in at 206.2, which is 1.2 pounds over the title fight limit. Came back 2 minutes later and made the weight. Everyone wondered, how in the heck did he make the weight so quick? He was leaning on a towel that was tightly held by 2 guys. And there's been experiments online since this happened. It does make you weigh less on a scale. Very controversial. But the fight went on. John Jones, the would-be champion of the 205-pound light heavyweight class, is on suspension for the dick pills. He called it the dirtiest thing he's ever seen in sports, Daniel Cormier holding that towel. And Daniel Cormier called him the dirtiest person in sports. He said, Cialis boy, don't talk to me about this shit. Go take some dick pills. That's what he said. I did not say that. I would never. It's an interesting beef that's brewing. Now Daniel Cormier is calling out his NFL star brother Arthur Jones, who's a gigantic man, like 350-pound lineman. And John Jones has another brother named Chandler, who's another gigantic NFL defensive end. It's like, you really want to pick a fight with the Jones boys? You got John Jones, arguably the best fighter of all time, and 2 NFL players who are bigger than John Jones. Well, thank you for listening. Come back next week. We're going to be recapping UFC on Fox and previewing UFC Fight Night 108 from Nashville, Tennessee, which I will be at. Cage side. Peace.